Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on the Amazon Way on IoT, led by John Rossman. Hello, John.
Good morning.
I hope you all managed to log in safely. If not, you'll of course receive the recording afterwards. John, why don't you go ahead and start?
Perfect. Hi, thanks. And I appreciate everybody taking time out of their busy day. So we're here to talk about the Internet of Things, and based off a book I wrote called The Amazon Way on IoT, 10 Principles for Every Leader from the World's Leading Internet of Things Strategy. But this book isn't about Amazon, and the story isn't about Amazon. It's about what you can take from a company like Amazon as you develop your Internet of Things and digital strategy and work to make change happen in your organization. So a little bit about me. I run a small consulting group called Rossman Partners. I am a former Amazon executive. I was at Amazon for about 4 years. I got to launch and scale the marketplace business. So that's third parties selling at Amazon.com. Today, that's over 50% of all units shipped and sold, and about 3 million sellers on that platform. I primarily do advisory work with leadership teams today, helping them on their leadership strategies. And I've written 2 books. The first one is about Amazon's leadership principles called The Amazon Way, 14 Principles Behind the World's Most Disruptive Company, and The Amazon Way on IoT. So let's jump into it. So I start the book really talking about principles versus methods. And there's a quote that I use, which is, "As to methods, there may be a million and then some, but principles are few. The man who grasps principles can successfully select his own methods. The person who tries methods, ignoring principles, is sure to have trouble." When I was doing client work, trying to help my clients build their Internet of Things strategy, what I noticed was there was no framework or way to help me think through and answer the question, what should my IoT strategy be? So I wrote this book to help a business person answer that question of, how do I think through what my Internet of Things and digital strategy should be, as well as some add-ons as far as how does a company like Amazon go about articulating their strategy and their plans to help gain clarity. So I hope that it is a durable set of principles regardless of the technology and the environment that we live in. I hope that these are durable principles that can help a business leader think through their digital strategy. So I start off by talking about the triple threat of the Internet of Things. And by that, what you typically find is that the rationalization or the benefit of the Internet of Things can either help you serve a customer better, help you drive an operational improvement, or help you build a new business or service model. But from any one of those positions, what you'll find is that you can quickly pivot into other positions. And so you want to do these things with that mindset of it's a journey, it's not a project, and you want to be able to build in a journey and orientation that will let you learn and adapt quickly to the next position. Which is why it's important to think about not just designing for today, but building things in an extensible approach, an extensible architecture, and with a learning mindset that will let you go from both today's circumstances and small projects into bigger projects. There's a paper I read called The Future of Firefighting, and in it, it talks about how putting sensors on emergency workers, on firefighters' bodies can help. And it starts off with the simple use case of just knowing what the location and operating conditions are for that single firefighter. But once you have a group of firefighters with sensors on them, then you can actually coordinate and understand a team of firefighters. But then once you have a team of firefighters, you can easily triangulate and coordinate with a broader network of emergency responders. And I think that that's a good example of where you'll likely start with a simple and single use case, but you want to quickly advance into more sophisticated and coordinated and networked oriented scenarios. So you need to build with that mindset in mind. So let's dive into the principles to help you think through your Internet of Things and digital strategy. The first principle is about customers, and it is the Internet of Things won't get you anywhere unless you're obsessing over your customers and their experiences and how connected devices can solve their problems. At Amazon, we always built products and services. We had this mindset of start with the customer and work backwards. So many of Amazon's innovations and the things they're currently doing with IoT always start with better customer empathy and understanding how can they serve a customer better. So I think that Internet of Things is a great way for you to help build and understand your customers and to have better empathy for your customers. And if you're struggling with how do I start, think about what your customers, what their worst moments are, what can go wrong, how could a sensor or device give you ideas, data, understanding of that scenario and help you improve that scenario. The second principle is enabling customers whenever, whatever. And it reads, customers expect seamless experiences across platforms and channels. The Internet of Things will be instrumental to helping you create this, enabling new interactions that bring ease and delight your customers. The future of great customer experiences are going to not only cross devices and services and products, but typically cross across enterprises. And that's really, in retail, they talk about an omni-channel experience. And so thinking about the customer experience bigger and broader than your product or your experience is a great way to think about what should my Internet of Things strategy be. A couple of years ago, Amazon launched a partnership. It was a beta partnership in Germany between Audi, DHL, and Amazon, and it allowed a customer to order an item and have it delivered to their car. The DHL delivery person would get the location of the car, a one-time electronic fob, be able to open up the trunk, put in the package, close the trunk, fob's disabled, customer gets a message that the package has been delivered. A great customer experience. Thinking through that across organizations is a new way to think about customer experiences. Principle number 3 is relentlessly improve with connected devices. And it reads this: connected devices are a powerful enabler for monitoring and improving your operations to make your company more efficient, competitive, and profitable. I bet that you didn't know that if you go to relentless.com, you actually go to the amazon.com website. Amazon is relentless about operational improvement and operational excellence. No matter where you're at in your journey for your operational effectiveness and operational improvement methodologies, having more data, having real-time data can turbocharge your operational excellence initiatives. Think about what data, what event could I have in my current processes and my current products and my current services to improve my operational excellence? And that's one great way to start your digital initiatives. So principle number 4 is do the math. And it reads this: using mathematical equations and the Internet of Things, you can track the levers and processes of your business, learn more about specific processes, and gather data that will power and inform equations, driving improvements and efficiencies. So if you think about advancing how you think about the services and processes in your organizations, forcing yourself to think about those processes as actual equations puts you on the path to being able to create algorithms to optimize those equations, which are your processes and your services. There's a quote I use in the book that I think reflects this well, and it's this: It's often said that you don't really understand something unless you can express it as an algorithm. As Richard Feynman said, what I can't create, I do not understand. And that is by Pedro Domingo, the author of The Master Algorithm. So thinking about how can I actually define and create such well understood and well articulated processes that I can write a mathematical equation and then use Internet of Things and sensors to get the data to power that equation will take you to a world-class level on your services and capabilities. Principle number 5 is think big but start small, and it reads this. Successful innovation with the Internet of Things requires a big and powerful vision, but to reach that vision, you'll need to create and learn from a series of small and agile experience. One of the Amazon leadership principles is about thinking big and having a big vision, but don't confuse thinking big with betting big. The companies that can think about small, agile experiments, bets that either work or don't work, but quickly being able to evolve from those into the next item will be the companies that win in the digital era. Amazon has had a number of small IoT initiatives that didn't really work well, but quickly transitioned into the next generation. So for example, many years ago, Amazon launched a product called the Amazon Dash Wand. It was for the pantry scenario. It didn't really go that well. It never went out of beta. But because they did that, they quickly morphed into the Amazon Dash buttons and many other devices. So think about how do you have both a big vision, but create small, agile initiatives that can truly fail and learn quickly from those and advance into your next capabilities. Principle number 6 is about becoming a platform business. A platform business is when you take core capabilities, turn them inside out and let others leverage those core capabilities. Amazon has done this time and time again, right? So the business I ran, the Amazon Marketplace business, is an example of taking a core capability, turning it inside out and letting others leverage that capability. Amazon Web Services, FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, multiple others are all examples of Amazon taking core capabilities, turning them inside out, making them self-service, and letting others leverage those. So this principle reads this: building a platform business model which allows others to leverage your capability to build and grow their own business creates a stronger, sustainable competitive advantage for your business. The Internet of Things creates exciting possibilities for companies to develop a platform business model, leveraging their connected devices for other companies to use. And when you do this, here's the great forcing function that comes out of this. In order to take a capability, turn it inside out and let others use it, it has to be world-class. It has to be self-service. It has to have high SLAs. It has to be highly available. It has to be highly defined and refined. So think about, how can you take core capabilities, turn them inside out, and let others leverage those? And that'll give you good ideas for improvements in your capabilities. Principle number 7 is about becoming an outcome-based business, and it reads this: connected devices facilitate the creation of outcome-based businesses, an innovative model in which customers pay for the results a product or service provides rather than the product or service itself, shifting ownership, effectiveness, and maintenance responsibilities back to the provider and aligning customer and provider interests. So these as-a-service business models are really just starting to develop. There's really 3 or more kind of varieties of these. These goes from self-monitoring products to subscription-based businesses to as-a-service or true outcome-based business models. Amazon has a number of the self-monitoring products kind of already underway using the embedded Alexa capability. So there's a Brita water filter which will monitor the actual cleanliness and use of the filter and reorder itself based on the actual status of that. So think about How can you take more accountability, align yourself with your customer for the results that they want from your products and services? This is going to force you to have better operational excellence. It'll allow you to understand your customer better, and it will allow you to transition your business and your relationship from a transaction into a service and a long-term relationship with your customer. This is not easy. I would suggest that you build up to these types of capabilities, but this is truly the future of business models coming down the road. So principle number 8 is data, the new black gold. And this is about taking data itself and being able to monetize it and create a revenue stream and value out of it. And the principle reads this: through the Internet of Things, companies can collect an unprecedented volume and variety of data. It's the new black gold, which they can syndicate or monetize to create valuable new businesses and revenue streams. This is truly an idea that, while talked about a lot, it's difficult to find examples of companies that are truly taking sensor-based data and figuring out ways to monetize it, but it's definitely coming. And so those companies that curate their data, collect more data than they know what they're going to do with today, and are thinking about how could they solve a problem for somebody else. Who else would be interested in this data? Will be able to figure out ways to syndicate and monetize and create new revenue streams and new business models from that data. Principle number 9 is about strategy, and it reads this: innovation and growth come from a constant exploration and a set of strategic bets into new products and services. The Amazon way to identify those products and services is typically to start with your existing product and services and move up and down the value chain of the industry. IoT creates new opportunities for expansion up and down the value chain of your industry. So at Amazon, we had a specific name for the strategy of launching a new business in one place in the value stream of that industry, and then over time, understanding it better and expanding into it. We called that strategy Launch and Learn. Many of Amazon's existing businesses today started with that exact strategy. So if you think about the oldest of Amazon's business models, the book business, right? They started as just a retailer for books. And then they got into the book publishing business. They used CreateSpace as a publishing. They created new devices to be able to actually sell books on, so the Kindle e-readers. They continue to always look upstream and downstream in a business. They typically start with a partnership model, but then they figure out what's the value proposition, where is there a poor and non-integrated customer experience, and where can Amazon's orientation towards competing on cost and providing an integrated customer experience help serve an unserved set of customers. Think about what the industry value chain that you operate in today and how you could go upstream and downstream, sometimes using the Internet of Things to expand your business model and keep strategizing. Don't ever get too comfortable in one particular area in your value stream, because your partners and your channel partners are trying to figure out how to go upstream and downstream also. Principle number 10 is this: understand the flywheel of your business. And it reads: if you have a clear understanding of the system dynamics or the flywheel model of your business, you can use IoT to identify and execute on opportunities and risks in your business. Amazon has a famous flywheel, which is really about how they drive growth by adding new selection, competing on price, improving the customer experience, which helps drive more sellers, more selection onto the business, and the model continues from there. It's a virtuous cycle business understanding. Taking the time to understand the system dynamics of your business and your industry, identifying both the risks and the opportunities within that set of system dynamic factors, and then asking yourself the question, How can we either minimize, understand, or help promote the value in that cycle to create that virtuous business cycle is the way that Amazon thinks through their businesses. Today, Amazon is a conglomerate business, right? So many different businesses, but there are very real synergies and interconnection between those business models. Thinking about your business as a flywheel business model, and then trying to figure out how do we minimize the risk or improve the opportunities, leveraging digital approaches, including the Internet of Things, is a great way to both think through your strategy as well as to articulate it to others. And being able to articulate your strategy to others is one of the first things we'll talk about in terms of how do you actually make change happen. So those are the 10 principles that I outline in the book. And then what I do is I go in and I talk about how does a company like Amazon think about and articulate what they're actually going to do. And the thing I would say about Amazon is they are very intentional about what they say yes to and what they say no to. They take a very long time in articulating what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. What will we fund? What will we not fund before they proceed? And it's a classic go slow to go fast approach. And when you hear about Amazon being a hard-working place, it's because people have both operational jobs as well as they're spending a lot of time articulating what their improvement plans are. So let's talk a little bit about how Amazon goes through that strategy articulation, because I think it's some of the most powerful lessons that you can take from Amazon. The first is this: they really do think through a different set of questions. So Einstein has a quote that is something to the effect of, if I haven't had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes focused on what the right questions are and 5 minutes on what the answers to those questions are. Too often, leaders and teams are asking themselves either the wrong questions or the same questions. So take the time, do the exercises to ask a different set of questions about what would truly serve my customer better? How would I dramatically improve the quality, the cost, the convenience, the price of my products and services? How would I get to perfection in my delivery? How would I make something zero provisioning or have no incremental cost to it? How would I provide something as a service, as a platform business model? Those types of questions would lead you into different ideas in how you can serve your customers and grow up and down your value stream. So that's the first thing. Take time to ask and answer different questions. One of the things Amazon does is they write out all ideas, all proposals, all projects as a narrative, a 6-page narrative. There is no PowerPoint at Amazon. PowerPoint is good for this, which is essentially queued speaker notes, but PowerPoint is a very poor medium and approach for gathering and collecting and documenting and passing forward well-refined, detailed ideas. So at Amazon, there is no PowerPoint. Teams write narratives. They take they write these 6-page narratives, and they are done when they are done. Very difficult to estimate how long it takes. There's a couple of real tangible values out of writing all ideas, all projects and narratives. First of all, it's a team effort. So lots of people get to contribute to what the idea is, but it forces that team to be concise and to have clarity and agreement on exactly what it is we're proposing, how is it differentiated, what's the rationale for why we want this investment, and making it tangible as to exactly what it is and what it isn't. And if you want to try to make your projects as small as possible, getting clear on exactly what you need to do, what are the hypotheses we need to test early on, the narrative will help you do this. The other big benefit is that as these narratives work their way up the organization into the S team, the senior team at Amazon, meetings start with 15 minutes of silence where leadership has to actually read and grok these narratives. It's more demanding on senior leadership to have to read and understand a narrative. Phones are turned off, computers are set down, people read the narrative, and then conversation ensues. So think about ditching the PowerPoint, writing all of your important plans and projects and ideas out at narratives. It's hard, it takes a lot of discipline, but you will think through things and you will be able to pass them forward to others to help execute those projects. Amazon does a great job at once they commit to something, they execute extremely well on it. It doesn't mean that all the ideas are the right idea, but they execute on those ideas very quickly and very well. And it's because they take their time up front before they start building. Once they write the narrative, then they write what's called a future press release. And a future press release is a one-page announcement, generally to the organization or to the broader set of people about what this initiative is. There's really 3 or 4 key sections to the future press release. The first section of the future press release talks about customers, of course, right? It talks about why is this product, this new service, this project, what will delight a customer? How will this new capability make a difference to a customer? And articulating that deep customer empathy and why this idea will make a difference to customers is critical. The second part of the future press release is really either the metrics that you hope to achieve or the business case and the rationale and the budget for what this initiative is. The third piece of the future press release is really what makes the difference. In that third section, you talk about what the big issues, what the complications, what the risks are relative to accomplishing this vision and this mission. You don't necessarily talk about what you're going to do to solve those or to minimize those risks because you haven't done the work yet, but you're just articulating what those big issues are that are going to have to take place. That future press release gets assigned to one person in the organization to be accountable for making that vision happen. And what everybody understands, regardless of level or seniority, everybody reports to that person relative to making that future press release happen, right? It helps avoid bureaucracy and make the organization more nimble. So think about writing your initiatives in terms of a future press release, assigning it to one leader in the organization and announcing to the organization, we all work for that person in making this future press release happen. You will execute your projects and make change happen so much better. The next thing we did was from day one of a new project or a new initiative is we would start writing out a set of frequently asked questions or FAQs. The FAQs were available to everybody in the organization, so everybody could read them and contribute them. We would write FAQs from different points of view, from our customer point of view, from operations, from finance, from legal, from tax. We would write all these FAQs out from specific points of view. Guess what happens if from day one, you're thinking through what are the questions my different stakeholders might have? You're going to forecast what those questions and issues are. You're going to manage them better. You're going to be able to maintain scope better, and everybody's going to have more buy-in into the project and the initiative. So think about writing FAQs from day one and getting everybody's input into those FAQs. And the final thing we would do is from day one, before we wrote any product, any design, we built anything, is we would try to write a user manual for our product, for our service, for our APIs, whatever we were building. And all that writing a user manual does is it helps you understand early on, what do we understand well about our capability or our product versus what don't we understand well about our product or capability? Again, with that mindset of start with the customer and work backwards. If you can articulate what the product or service is in a user manual, you're understanding it well. If there's aspects of that user manual that you can't articulate yet, or there's different points of view on it, that just helps highlight what the risks and the topics are that you need to address in the design of your product and service. Those are the things that Amazon does to help rationalize projects and initiatives. They really do seek clarity and being very well articulated in what they're going to fund, what they say yes to versus what they're not going to fund, what they say no to. And getting that clarity up front and senior leadership deeply understanding what are we going to do differently in order to test this idea out, I believe is the single biggest mindset shift that's required for becoming a digital and agile organization versus traditional management mindset. They don't understand how to deal with risk. The final thing we would do is we would articulate the initiative in terms of a project charter. And so a project charter is a more well-informed articulation of what the project is. What are the milestones? What are the deliverables? Who are the stakeholders? Who are the resources? What are the risks? What are the deliverables of a project? Those are kind of the elements that you cover in a project charter. Most people still just use, status reports and Gantt charts. A project charter, every time we would talk about a project, we would have the project charter in front of us, remind us of exactly what this project is, because you're oftentimes switching context in your minds, and using this project charter as a living document to keep up to date on profiling what the project is will help you run a better project. And finally, articulating your IoT requirements. The Internet of Things, putting sensors on everyday devices, there are a set of both business and technical and legal requirements and options that you have. Everything from, what is the data? What is the frequency that I need to collect it to? What are the operating conditions it needs to operate under? What are the power requirements? Those are all the types of requirements that you need to be thinking about. Even if you're just the business person relative to initiative, better understanding of what are the trade-offs and questions that we need to ask as far as those requirements will help you be a better business partner to your technical team, to your legal team, and to your finance team. Finally, there's all sorts of facts and conversation out there about digital disruption. You can't pick up any paper, the Wall Street Journal, whatever it is, without seeing a headline about a new company failing or an upstart that is disrupting an industry. And I always ask myself the question, why is it that large companies with all the advantages of incumbency, having customers, revenue, great organizations, why is it that they have a tough time changing? And Jeff Bezos has this quote, which is, the death knell for any enterprise is to glorify the past, no matter how good it was. And I think it really, the problem of creating change really does come down to an essence of that, which is we cherish the past and we think that we have a great organization and a great culture, but you have to be very careful about what you want to hold on to relative to your past strategy and your past organizational and management approaches versus those things that might limit you going forward. And if you can be more thoughtful about being careful about cherishing too much versus opening yourself up for new ideas and new changes and new mindsets for management of this, I think you'll be much more successful in creating that digital future. So with that, I wanted to let you know that you'll be receiving an email inviting you to join me along with Amazon Web Services, AWS, for a 3-day masterclass in Seattle in June of 2019. In that class, I go through all of these techniques and more to really help you build your mindset and your tools and the types of techniques to help articulate your digital strategy to make change happen in your organization. And with that, I want to say thank you for your time today. I wish you the best in defining your digital strategy. Thank you.